Well, hello all. Thank you for joining me. This is a channel where we take a subject and we deep dive down the rabbit hole all week long. And of course, we're going to talk about tabletop RPGs, and we do this long form, about an hour or so each day. And then we subdivide it. Today's Monster Monday. So we're going to talk about constructs in the classic 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons description of of constructs and golems and automatons and things of that nature. And of course, we will continue to talk about that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and such. Also, if you're one who wants to catch the show later, of course, it's on YouTube. There's also a SoundCloud, and if you really want to participate, you can join the chat as we are live on YouTube, or join the Discord and participate that way. The Discord is under Fantasy Grounds College, and then on the left, slide down to the Boiler Room. That's where all the cool kids hang out. Now, one thing I did want to I want to say just before we start talking about constructs, a little bit of a base rule is that yes, we will be talking about sentient beings, Dungeons and Dragons or rather at the world of Eberron and their Warforged. We will talk about them, and we will, by the time we get to Future Friday, we of course will be talking about sentient creatures. But I did want to emphasize that a lot of what we're going to talk about are non-sentient or semi-sentient creations of sorts and those kind of things. So going to be flow a little bit close to, say, elementals, and a little bit close to living I guess you could say, like, sentient machines, maybe close to the Borg or Transformers or something like that. But I really did want to keep this as close as possible, especially here on Monster Monday, close to what we would traditionally call golems and such. But we'll talk about homunculi and things thereof and some of their origins. So I'm going to try to find what. Let's see. I should have did this earlier. I'm going to try to find constructs and what they define them as in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and then kind of take it from there. And one of the things I think is really cool about constructs is that on the surface, it seems as if they are pretty simple things, right? Classically, we think of them as possibly being created by, I don't know, dwarves or gnomes, or sitting outside of a dungeon entrance or something of that nature, and you surrounding a castle or an entrance. Or maybe we're talking a statue in the jungle, or maybe even stone lions that bracket the entrance to a giant library or something of that nature. Infinite Roleplay says sentient versus sapient. Yes. We're definitely going to talk about that as well, especially later on in the week. Rickard says, I'm going to start the week off with a construct Hydra. Every time you kill a head, the head breaks off and becomes another miniature construct. Ooh, that's a great idea. I like the idea of breaking things off and then becoming independent. I like the concept of that, where you're not hacking off bits and pieces, killing it, but it becomes something else. I like that as well. Dead Man says the D&D 2nd edition had about a dozen constructs, and later editions added more. Now, one of the great things about constructs, Dead Man goes on to say, constructs are made, not born. Some are programmed by their creators to follow a simple set of instructions, while others are imbued with sentience and capable of independent thought. Golems are the iconic constructs. Many creatures native to the outer plane of Mechanus, such as Modrons, are constructs shaped from the raw material of the plane by the will of more powerful creatures. And that's one of the things that as far as constructs go, we can play with. So let's do a little simple thing, a literary thing here, and using the who, what, where, when, how, and why, and adding constructs to your world. I think is a great idea because all of the questions come up: who, what, where, when, why, and how um, are attached to constructs just from their simple existence. Okay, so very simply put, who is like, well, who built them, who constructed them, who willed them into existence? Is it a ragtag group of inventors? Is it a divine faction that gave life to the statues of the soldiers or something that have passed? Who did this? Was it um, a dark ritual to bring about the playing God, as it were? Yep. Rickard says mad scientist. It's always mad scientist. Yeah. Frankenstein's monster. The monster. What's the television show that aired for a couple of seasons? Penny Dreadful. Penny Dreadful and the Dr. Frankenstein, who created Proteus and the other constructs through returning life to the dead and such. So who created them? What is another question. What are they? What are they constructed from? Now, normally stone and metal seem to be some of the most prolific kinds of things behind the constructs. Yeah, if it says, oh my God, the history behind the birth of constructs in the Saturday morning tabletop is too much to get into. Ooh, Forkenstein. I hear you, Tesla. The idea of what are they? And now remember, some of the history of constructs they do not necessarily come from the purpose that they were built for, does not necessarily come about normally. For example, we can think of Pinocchio and Geppetto, or we can think of, I believe there's a Greek myth where someone carved a statue with such likeness and fell in love with the statue that this individual beseech the gods to bring it to life, which is also a possibility. And there's also the kinds of magic and oracles or whatnot where a statue is imbued with life, and the people there may have either wanted and wished for this person to return to them, or maybe they wanted a protector or something. So I'm not familiar with Pygmalion and Galate. I'm not. I mean, that's probably it, but I'm not. I'm not familiar with the names of that storyline where the person creates. Is maybe that is it? That where the person creates the statue and then the statue comes to life. I can't remember which motivation it was, whether the person willed it or the statue was created and then the gods willed it to life, something like that. Rickard says, going sci-fi with this, what about rogue medical bots attaching themselves to dying people, trying to keep them alive and moving even after the patient has passed? Yeah, we're talking Borg there. Agalma is one of the within the Ring of Fire deities. It's a sculpture brought to life. Yes, that's right. They do have a deity within the Ring of Fire that is a statue brought to life. And so we've got the who. Not we don't have the who yet, but I'm saying like who was it? An individual? Was it a small faction? Was it a government that brought these constructs to life? And then the what, and then the where. Where are they located? Is it just, are there only 3 in the world that people even know about, and they're gargoyles watching over a giant wizard's tower in a Gothic city? Are they ancient and protecting an old tomb? Have they just been created? Much like in Eberron, the Warforged were created as war machines and eventually given sentience. Maybe they didn't even have sentience to begin with. They were just outfitted to go into battle and into war and such. And what is their purpose? It doesn't always have to be war. Those purposes could be anything from being created as servants or working in factories or to build grand structures in honor of a great council of wizards or something. Many of them could be protectors in a highly arcane city where magic is very prevalent, and the important personages that walk around the city are flanked by golem bodyguards or something. There could be any number of reasons for that. Now, in the chat, Pelora says, and golems are from Jewish mythology with a load of different stories, just in case it's news for anyone. Yes, there's the idea of creating homunculi, chemically using alchemical concoctions to essentially pour them into maybe molds and create life, which in to an extent it kind of breaks the rules of what a construct or a golem is, but we do understand that they are artificial as well. You can also go into the animating objects arena, animating chairs and books and lamps and things of that nature, ladders, maybe tables, that someone could make the case that an animated suit of armor or an animated oil lamp could kind of be classified as a construct as well. Infinite Roleplay says, depending on the mythos, human beings are constructs formed from clay. As a matter of fact, there's old stories of Wonder Woman's origin being formed from clay, and in Dungeons and Dragons, the dwarves were built by Moradin, the god of the dwarves, and was formed from them. Yeah, dead man place in the Discord, the Wikipedia of Golem, and probably a ton of I'll click it. A ton of the origins from our own cultures from around the world. Yeah, there's a little image, a Prague reproduction of the golem. In Jewish folklore, is the animated anthropomorphic being that is magically created entirely from inanimate matter, usually clay or mud. Now, that also brings up the fact that the impetus behind the constructs could be something else. For example, you could imagine a Druidic cult, praying or calling upon the powers of nature when they are in front of something that has maybe, I don't know, a humanoid look to it. Maybe there's a stone outcropping or trees or some kind of physicality and anthropomorphized collection of materials that they could then bring to life. Like maybe there are tumbled stones that happened to have fallen, and they look like a person kneeling or laying down or something, or they could actually carry those stones, much like a Stonehenge or Easter Island effect, where these ancient peoples, felt like if they carved or placed stones or moved materials around to get the look and feel of humanity, that one day maybe the I don't know, the elemental elders would bring these things to life, or bring them to life temporarily for a very important job. Now, Ricker says, so you can have the crew of a ship going about the daily motions of the ship, but in actuality, it's the bots that just fulfills the duties of their patient in perpetuity. Oh yeah, yeah, keeping people alive, almost a morbid look at medical technology, keeping people into like an undead state, which would be kind of nasty. It goes on to say, so an old warship where the crew got killed by a core breach during the height of a galactic war might come back 1,000 years later. The bots keep them going, which I definitely see as like necroborgs or something of that nature. I'm sure something exists like that in 40K, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not very familiar with the lore, but I get this image of that. Plura says, I quite like the idea of constructs being powered by souls. It's easily It's easy to gamify. Either volunteered souls from a village to combat an invader, or someone taking souls to invade somewhere else. I agree with that most definitely. And that brings up something else about constructs, that their age, right? A construct could be 3 weeks old, a couple of hours old, all the way to a millennium old, where their original creators have long since passed on, but the constructs are still alive. And what mission, there is a strangeness and a little bit of a horror element to constructs, especially if they have a mission. They are intent on a mission that we are unfamiliar with, because originally it made a lot of sense then, but today might be problematic. Much like Rickard is talking about, medical bots trying to keep people alive, and the people could have been irradiated or going mad or died from their injuries, and the medical bots are still performing their duties by trying to keep these people alive and keep them moving around. And no matter, you know, by all means necessary, the robots are like, well, we can still, we could implant mechanical parts in them, or make them walk around like puppet strings or something. It'd be pretty nasty. Deadman says the Necrons from 40K are basically constructs with varying levels of autonomy. Yeah. There's so much to them. And again, maybe we can figure out on what level are the constructs being controlled, if at all. Pelor says one of my Numenera locations is practically entirely guarded by constructs based on the immune system. I love that. I love that idea. So it's a possibility. I mean, the way we can introduce them in the game is they could have been pre-programmed. Let's go very, very, very simple. You have a dungeon. There is a room in front of the door to the dungeon is a statue. Maybe there's like lighted braziers nearby, and it's got a big pole, and it's like an iron statue, and its job is to protect it from intruders. That's a real simple thing. But we can say the construct was pre-programmed, perform this function, and then left alone. We can assume that constructs maybe have to return home to be given further instructions by their creators. Build this temple. It may take you 200 years once you finish it, but when you're done, return to me, right? It could also be constructs could be overseen by ever greater levels of autonomy. So a collection of, say, 5 constructs could be overseen by a far more intelligent, either sentient and or sapient construct itself, who then is taking their orders from something else, or the constructs could literally be teleoperated. You could imagine in a far future, this is definitely something where there could be a distant pilot, essentially like a drone pilot, and then teleoperating one or multiple constructs, either distantly, meaning like programming them, joystick controlling them, and able to pick and choose which one they want to control, all the way to, essentially beaming their brains into the constructs and flipping that over into a more medieval or Dungeons and Dragons type setting. I could imagine a wizard's cabal being defended by not acolytes, but like lower level wizards or specialists who basically just spiritually just go into golems to defend the city, or defend their libraries or something. So they could the constructs, based on what you want to have, how you want to have them in the game, they could be pre-programmed, they could be ridden by distant operators. They may be able to record the things they see and hear and send that information back. They could be in direct contact with a controller who knows exactly what the PCs are doing and how they're doing it. So when a golem puts their hand out and, stop right there, please show me your papers, or why are you here in the city, or ask why they want entrance into the library, there may be a humanoid on the other end of that that golem, and the PCs may just assume, oh, it's just a mindless thing, don't worry about it. And you could have a combination of those things, right? Golems that keep all the books in order in a library might just be programmed to, put all the books back until, the three wizards the sages that run the library find out that someone has entered that shouldn't, and then all of a sudden their brains they're able to, astrally project themselves and move across, unseen and unheard through the library into these golems and then defend the location. Yeah, the Plura says, yeah, the go make paper clips conundrum as well, where the AI systems are like, oh, I want to make paper clips? Sure, I'm going to have to enslave all of humanity to start making these paper clips, right? Infinite Roleplay says the bots were only able to save the lizard brain portion of the crew's personality. Yeah, that'd be pretty nasty. I wonder, you maybe might even have to reconstruct or find the original memories of the crew, and that would be a cool fetch quest where the information still exists, but the machines are trying to stop you because they think that you're invading them and going to take away their lives, because that's their not new programming, but you're like a disease and they're trying to stop you, and the ship itself is kind of like the biological body of this crew. Rickard says, going the other way with the Hydra idea, you face 5 constructs. When you destroy one, the material from that construct flows into the remaining 4, empowering them and so on. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. It's like, maybe we should have left them as 5. This would have been easier to handle. Yeah, and thinking of constructs, a cool idea about constructs as well is constructs are really, really good at making puzzles and riddles for your PCs to combat, meaning that other than straight up trying to, open up a can of whoop ass and try to smash them down, if the constructs are tough enough, you could have alternate means to stop them. Now, if you want to go pure horror, we're talking Terminator, right? The Terminator movie, where fire and is impossible to hurt them. Stabbing and cutting and crushing, unless you have something extremely powerful, is not going to work. It's basically unstoppable, right? Now, and the key to stopping these overpowered, one or more overpowered golems, may be that the PCs must track it to, or lead it towards, or find something that can destroy it, i.e., using the Terminator analogy here, it could be pools of acid, or the molten metal from a forge, and the metal ore that's iron ore that's molten hot and liquid. It could be leading it towards flows of lava, or dumping it into the deep sea, or having it crushed under a giant machine in a factory or something. Again, trying to freeze it solid and break it when it gets frozen in through something that's, I don't know, absolute zero, et cetera, et cetera. Now, of course, there's the opposite. You might cause your own problems, right? Hey, let's set it on fire. Wait, you mean it's completely unharmed, and now it's a golem that's just, got oil on top of it, burning and super hot, and we actually just made it worse for us? Ooh, maybe that wasn't what we should have done, Also, some of these things might be temporaries. Dumping it into off of a sailing ship into the deep ocean might just delay it for maybe 80 years as it starts to walk back towards shore. It's the Spider-Man fighting the Juggernaut, right? There's an old comic where Spider-Man and the Juggernaut fight. Yes, they actually fought, and Spider-Man did all the above, tried to literally took a 18-wheeler full of gasoline or diesel fuel and had it explode, and Juggernaut just walked out of it, and he was just like, what the hell? And eventually he defeated him by distracting the Juggernaut, jumping onto his helmet, blinding him. Juggernaut was beating Spider-Man down to a pulp, and in the panel, you just see the Juggernaut's head going lower and lower, and he sunk down into the concrete foundation of a building, and Spider-Man leaped off of him at the last minute. And of course, the Juggernaut was down there for like I think they explained it for like months or something. He had to wait for it to harden before he could dig his way out. So I thought that was quite hilarious. But yes, there. I once used golems overpowered for the power of the PCs, and on each of them they had a keyhole in their back, and they carried around their neck a key, and so the PCs had to get the keys off the necks of particular golems and figure out which key would go into the back of the other golem that would turn them off. So golems can be puzzles in many shapes and forms. Also constructs and golems and things of that nature. Um, you know, why are they in existence in the first place? I think is one of the most important questions. Like, um, why do these people have them? Are they there for labor? Are they there for defense? Why is it protecting a tomb in the first place? Why are the golems in servitude to these people as opposed to trying to kill them? And so on and so forth. Is this the creation of a mad scientist? Are we going through that level? Maybe there is a cultural fear of these creations, much like the Frankenstein's monster idea. The scientists wanting to bring back life using body parts. Many cultures would say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like, I think you need to. I think you may need to, step back there, doctor. This isn't right, and trying to is someone or a faction or a group or a government trying to solve a problem, and this is the awkward way for them to solve it. Meaning, there could be, for example, a plague or radiation, or something is killing the people. There could be an ancient curse, and the people's lives are being cut short, and this is the only way for their souls to go inside of the machines, much like Pelora brought up about the idea of constructs being powered by souls. And if they are powered by souls, where are the souls coming from? Are they our ancestors? Are they the recently deceased? Are they volunteers to guard a city, and this is the way they can guard the city eternally? Maybe there are much like volunteers, maybe to give of themselves to a vampire lord, or to give of themselves to serve an undead, a necromancer or a lich or something eternally. Maybe these are warriors that have passed or will pass, wounded in combat, or maybe young people that want to devote themselves. And if they do, the king will take care of their families forever, for 5 generations. That's the promise, as long as you give of yourself to defend the city. And maybe there are people, awaiting, losing their humanity, but at the same time, ready to join in. uh, Side note, Beta Ray Bill in the Thor comics is a favored individual who gave of himself to, not really a construct. Well, some would say full body Borg conversions would border on constructs as well, much like the Borg in Star Trek would kind of, I think, are tangential to what we're talking about. And so there may be people who volunteer for this service. And we also can think of golems, are they linked together psychically through radio signals or neutrinos? Is there a psychic link? Is there a unlike being monitored from, say, an individual from afar? or do they have a hive mind of sorts to go about performing their duties? I could imagine having a hive mind to defend a city or to build a great structure would make a lot of sense, because that way they would be in perfect sync. And also transferring information from someone dangerous. If there's an individual who's able to, one shot a golem and they're starting to destroy 3 or 4 of them, the other 87 in the city might want to know that. And the defenders of the city might want to get that information as well, much like seeing through their eyes and ears. I could imagine a wizard with a crystal ball and able to monitor the senses of the golems that are around the city. Now, Deadman the Storyteller says you can also have the construct having its programming corrupted, i.e. the Necron, Pharaon, Overlord, Zod. I'm going to butcher the name. Zondrek. Zondrek is quite insane and doesn't see things as they are. Instead, seeing things from millions of years ago, which using the corruption, the perception and the corruption of their programming, it could be a matter of circumstance. So, for example, a millennium ago, the constructs were created to fight off an insect horde. Okay, so then humanity arrives, and the constructs just assume humanity is another insect horde, and so it may not necessarily be corruption, but a limited perception due to programming. Now on the other hand, it could be literal corruption where, they were perfectly fine defending the city until someone came along and used magic or a curse or electronics or something to corrupt their programming, and now they see everyone as an enemy. It's the heads up Terminator thing where it's like, it's green. Oh, there's the good person. Oh, boop, 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 boop. Oh, there's red. There's the bad person, and corrupting the whole thing and flipping it on its head. Now, excuse me. We can also, if you want to add a lot more nuance to including constructs in our world, what are they made of? Iron, stone, wood, flesh, and clay. Is there a combination of different materials used for them? And how much detail is given to them? Are they just stone blocks or wooden things just bolted together? Or do they have a lot of detail from, looking almost humanoid in their actions? Do they have lips and a nose and you can almost see their pores? Do their eyes blink as stone statues? And given great, is there an uncanny valley to the constructs and how they are created? In our, you'll see in both this thumbnail and the thumbnails going forward that I looked up statues and found some free ones that I could pick from, and some of them are made from like bronze and brass and copper and marble and stone, and statues are given a lot of detail, so they could absolutely represent statues that are 20 feet tall that represent each of the gods of the pantheon, given life as agents of an avatar of a divine being. And when someone approaches, I'll just make this for example, like someone approaches the statue of Apollo, and the statue of Apollo comes alive, and the statue of Apollo may speak, and its mouth may open, and it may have a staff or a spear, and that spear could alight with a flame that's blinding, and the heat could ignite paper from 20 yards away or something of that nature, right? So we don't have to necessarily make it, we don't necessarily need to make our constructs like big and bulky. They don't need to fumble. They don't need to have, platters for fingers. They could have a lot of detail, much like going back to the idea of the individual who carves a statue with such life that they fall in love with the statue. and want to bring that statue to life. And like in Within the Ring of Fire, literally a statue was brought to life and became a deity. Someone, in effect, I believe the story goes along the lines of, or even if I'm wrong, you can steal this, that a sculptor could have carved a chunk of marble to the image of someone so divine that it could not be, humanity could not keep it, that it is so perfect that it becomes a divine entity of itself. And that would be a great way to play with the idea of constructs and a deity devoted to maybe even kind of a combination of the arts and bringing things to life, which would be a great idea. Now, the Dead Man says the Ed 301 from RoboCop 3 was hacked by a child, and she made it bark and act like a dog. I forgot about that in RoboCop 3. But hell, even the machine in the first RoboCop was pretty bad. Like, put down your weapons. You have 30 seconds to comply. And I mean, what a great sarcastic satire on things, which I think some people lose. RoboCop is hilariously dark and funny, and a satire of, commercialism and law enforcement and just making fun of things, especially the fact that it couldn't go down the steps. It's this powerful machine with all these cannons, and it's like trying to feel its way down the steps. I love that. Rickard says you could also use the trope of cutting up the monster and burying its parts far away from each other to keep it from resurrecting with a construct. Ooh, yeah. I'd buy that for $1. Yeah. Like the dumbest show on TV that everyone watches. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Dead Man, for putting the other link about the Zandrak. I'm pronouncing it that way. I don't know if it's pronounced that way in the Discord. But yeah, the Rickard says, like, cutting up the monster. That's the other thing too. That's kind of okay. Here's the other thing with constructs and why we love them. We don't have to have any moral. I mean, we can, but for the most part, we don't have to have those dumb moral conversations we have to bring up at the table because the evil character wants to destroy the thing, and the good character's like, no, we need to be honorable or something. I mean, constructs, that's why they're used in movies. There's always an army of robots or an army of undead or some kind of army of mindless, faceless somethings, because computer wise, you can reproduce them over and over again, and then you get to see the heroes open up a can of whoop ass, and then boom, right, they go for it. So if you want to include something like that in the game, and you really want you feel like maybe your players aren't really feeling like top notch, throw in some really minor constructs and let them just wreck shop. Let them defeat. Use a minion rule, right? Just give them all one hit point, or don't even give them a hit point. Just say, listen, if you roll to hit it, it goes down or something. Now, of course, there is a problem with that. One hit takeouts for some really powerful constructs might not fit into your concept of how powerful they are. But if you have something that's like much like the episode 1, 2, and 3 from Star Wars, if you just have these bargain basement robots walking around in your world that are just like, it's their numbers that are powerful, not them individually, you could throw something like that in there and have them destroyed. And of course, again, we get to throw away the moral conundrums. Hey, can I drop a starship onto this factory spewing out these non-sentient android drone like things? Yeah, sure, go ahead. If a PC is like, you know what, can I throw a fireball in the door and just lock the door behind me? Sure, go ahead. Why not? Why not? Now, another question when it comes to constructs is, If someone created them and you destroy the construct, someone's going to be a little bit pissed off. So they make great lead-ins, just in case you thought that the giant statue at the end of your dungeon was going to be the big bad you thought was going to be, and the PCs wipe up the floor with them in one round. Like, that was easy. You could very easily pivot and go, well, well, it was just they're defending, and you hear a voice going, "Who dares enter my lair?" And who dares destroy my guardian of my crap? And pivot very quickly into like going like, "Ooh, I'm glad I had a secondary big bad evil guy." Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't come into your house and break your stuff. What are you doing here? Exactly. So you very much have the idea, like, if there are golems and there's constructs, somebody might own them. Now, of course, the ancient race of whoever or whatever created them, and then maybe they're long gone. True, but there's also maybe whoever has created and animated them wants to know what the hell's going on, even whether they're close or far away. So a PCs want to sneak into the haven of a grand divine church to the pantheon, and the pantheon, the statues of the pantheon come alive. Each of the statues having a unique maybe ability for one of the pantheon. The statue of Apollo has a flaming blinding spear, and the statue of Neptune has a trident and is able to blast a bolt of lightning or water from its maybe can flood a room with water that comes from nowhere. And the statue of Zeus has a bolt of lightning in its palm and can throw it at the PCs, and then the PCs one by one start destroying the statues. Maybe the gods or the clergy that are devoted to the Greek or Roman gods is like, wait a minute, hold on. Now, we like you said, Plura, I don't come into your house and break your stuff. You're going to pay for that. We're going to take your soul and put it into a golem, which could be a punishment. Glad I was see that segue. You see how I did that? The golems in your world could be a punishment, an imprisonment of sorts for criminals or political dissidents or enemies from a foreign nation or a very draconian government or a criminal organization that you don't pay them. You're going to serve out your payment for 101 years or something of that nature. Maybe they might even keep your biological body alive, or they could shove your biological body inside of a construct, at least temporarily. Hint, hint, that sure, you'll get your life back, but you're going to have to defend or march or something, and maybe the humanoid spirit or essence is what powers these things and gives them their mobility. And that in itself could be a secret. Everyone thinks, oh, those constructs are around here defending us. Great. Not knowing that there's people inside literally screaming their heads off, going mad because they don't have their lives anymore, but their souls being harnessed to power these things. Rickard says, would it count as a construct if you base it on the personality of someone that used to live? See, and this is where we come upon the sentience versus sapient question, meaning if you copied someone's personality with extremely high fidelity, meaning that you cannot tell the difference between the real person and the copy made, and you put it inside of a construct, is that construct now that person? Yeah, that's a question that's probably best left to be discovered in game, and not deciding whether that's a real thing or not could be a thing. I mean, we'll definitely bring that back up for future Friday, but that's very much a question we kind of hinted upon last week when we talked about transhumanism. There could be a large number of people who wish to their irradiated plane of existence or planet or something, and biological life is just mutated, turns to sludge after a couple of years. But if we just copy ourselves and insert ourselves into mechanical bodies, we can live forever. And that, in many ways, much like the television show The Orville, much like Transformers, the Borg, that may be a side effect of trying to save the lives of the people there, creating, or maybe there was the hubris of, we're going to create a new life. And of course, that's always the thing. Mad scientists, something constructed gets out of control, has their own personality, their own life, and they eliminate or outlive or destroy all life on this planet. And the only thing left are the constructs and such that exist. Pelor says in Malefax, constructs using soul stones with souls in them, are fine, but fusing a living thing to a machine is illegal, called amalgamations. That's strange, because I could imagine a family, whether they're rich nobles, or maybe it's very common for people to have, say, a soul stone, and that soul stone has their loved one, and through whatever means, whether it's periodically or upon war or whatever, that there may be a limited number of constructs and they're able to take turns or vote upon, or maybe the royal families only have access to constructs and they can take the soul stone and stick them, into the forehead or the chest plate of a construct, or, place it into a housing in this, that's, I don't know, behind the neck of the stone statue, and it brings their loved one to life, at least temporarily. Maybe even having a view screen in the chest, so you could actually see the person's face kind of floating in the chest, or the golem could have like a little holographic or illusionary broadcast thing off the palm of its hand or over its shoulder, so you could like an overlay, so you can see the real person's face, but it's just an image. It's not really them. It's just them being able to emote some kind of way. Rickard goes on to say, because you could do a ritual for dead heroes of a kingdom to store them and have constructs that can be slotted with heroes if the need arises. Very much like Egyptian and or I believe they were Japanese burial sites where there were numbers of soldiers buried with them. Who's to say that's an easy thread to pull on using our own ancient cultures and say, yeah, all those warriors that were buried with that, daimyo or shogun, yeah, they come back to life. They still exist. They're in another world, and a threat has come to the, prime material plane or something, and so now they're alive again, and now they're more powerful than ever because they're made of a solid stone with, I don't know, bronze weapons or something like that, right? And it would be rather odd to see these statued individuals trying to return home, whether they still have a draw of being devoted to the families of the people that they came from. I could see that as well. And also you could have an eternal war where the spirits of the individuals don't die, but the constructs do. And so there could be battlefields littered with these constructs, and the souls are just summoned back to go into yet one more body to go back out to war. And yeah, that could be an eternal fight that way. And the PCs maybe, or someone else maybe, unearths this battlefield that's been covered over by sand and dust and life, and now they've been uncovered and going back at it again. Pelor says there's a story about racing constructs, and it turns out one of the owners was using a legless, dismembered dog inside their racer. I don't remember. Why does that sound familiar and disgusting? But again, the idea of uncovering a secret as to how a construct is powered, like you said, it could be maybe the people don't realize that these are the the removed brains of convicted felons or something, or the removed brains of kidnapped individuals or captured soldiers, or people that were lied to volunteer for this. Um, Pelorus says, Rickard says you could have a royal library of heroes. Yeah, just awaiting their time to return back. I could see a royal library. We need a navy. And all the naval heroes are able to get back into aquatically designed constructs or something. I could see that. I don't know. You could make the case that in your world, like gargoyles, which can fly, could be uh, could be heroes as well, placed into their bodies when the need arises, and you could reskin the gargoyles to look like angelic figures made out of like white marble or something with wings. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Pelorus's dragons from StarCraft and juggernauts from 40K are heroes bound to a machine. Yeah, and then we're going to hit upon something that might be. I thought we would talk about this tomorrow about the fragility slash invulnerability of constructs and how various games handles that and how you would handle that in your own world. Deadman says the Eldar in 40K use soul stones and Wraith Naught, and several other constructs for battles. Yeah, and maybe the PCs are there to liberate some of these souls out of these machines, or the souls in the machines don't realize that they can actually have freedom. They've been conditioned so much until someone releases their souls. I suppose you could equate this to the Warforged in Eberron, that there may be some Warforged that only believe that they're for war and want to continue the war until a PC is awakened to the fact that they actually have freedom and released from their duties. So I imagine that you could very much play with that idea. Rickard says you have, Scott Poe. Hey, what's up? What's up? Says the clay pot warriors would be commenting on how this area looked back when they were alive. This sprawl was once farmland as far as the eye could see, which is a great way to make that dissonance from the constructs, because they know what the place used to look like. When, like, you're talking about the clay pot soldiers, I can imagine these clay pot soldiers are samurai or Chinese warriors or something, and they come out of the ground or the temples and look around and they see automobiles and neon lights, and they're like, what the hell? And maybe they want to bring back those old ways, or the souls that are inside of them, given sentience or given back their sentience and sapience, are like, I don't like the way this world is, and I can actually return it to the old way. They can't stop me. Or they may find that their family, 8 generations hence, are still alive and go try to find their families and protect them, maybe even, or at least talk about the old ways with them, as long as the people aren't running away from them in fear. Janny, hi, what's going on there? Rickard says you have them imperfect so that they will be obedient to whoever controls the constructs, so that they are loyal to the new king or some miscreant who happened to procure a soul crystal, which we often hear about the idea of the construct being perfect, right? The Borg are a perfect, in perfect harmony versus humanity, which is in chaos. And who is to say that there isn't imperfection built into the constructs so that they don't perceive themselves as the perfection that they could be? Maybe someone did create a perfect one and had to destroy it or decommission it, or leave it on a deserted island, or some kind of thing. And going back to what Rickard was saying about the 5 and the 1, 1 and the 5, the Voltron idea, the the idea of I'll form the head idea is that we don't have to limit ourselves to constructs being humanoid at all, whether in shape or size. A construct can be as small as a cat or a mouse, as opposed to constructs being as large as buildings, and being maybe they are instrumental in constructing great works of art or giant cities or something. I could imagine Titan-sized statues that are avatars of the gods, or heroes, great heroes that were constructed and literally come to life and break away, like a bas relief carving from a mountain, and they break away from the mountain to walk across the countryside. They could even be large enough to hold cities in plates on their backs or in their arms. I could imagine like Atlas holding up a large city, or holding a bowl or a platform in their arms, and those could be constructs as well, which might be, mega damage creations, not necessarily something to defeat, I don't think, but sure, they could be a couple of miles tall. We don't need to make a construct exactly like you know, 6.5 feet tall of a muscle bound individual, or a beautiful woman or something. It could be anything. It could be someone could literally make a construct of a Medusa, and that construct of a Medusa could come to life. Maybe combining the two, be pretty nasty. Ricker says, what happens when the legendary heroes are made to fight against the kingdom they once protected, especially if that kingdom went against the original ideals, especially if they were heroes to protect the city, and the leadership starts, beating the individuals who live there about the head and face. those those constructs or golems or whatever might go like, I don't think you should do that. And it would be kind of strange for the PCs to arrive at this medieval city, and there are constructs walking around being honored by the people that are there. And they're like, what's going on? Who controls them? And come to find out, no one controls them. They are heroes. They liberated the people. And, children are like drawing chalk smiley faces on the legs and thighs of the golems. And every once in a while, like someone will drape a silk scarf around the neck of one of the golem-like heroes of the city, just out of admiration and joy or something. I mean, we don't think about how the average citizen will react to the constructs. Do they think of them as their specific loved one because they have a soul stone? Do they think of them as okay, pets might be the wrong way of thinking of this, but do the people honor them but don't attribute to them humanoid characteristics, right? Like they want to see them protected and cared for and cherished, but they don't think of them as people. They think of them as others. Some people are just blasé about it. Like, they're here to protect us, but whatever. They're just another thing. There's orcs and minotaurs walking around too, but I don't bat an eye at them either. Or there could be a little bit of fear. When they walk into the town square, everyone gets quiet because they're looking around for dissidents and criminals, and the people there just get quiet about their talk because no one wants to say anything against them or their leadership, even though everyone knows that the king and queen are dead. Everyone knows the king and queen are dead, but the servants are still in service to the king and queen. And no one wants to tell them. Like, some people have tried to explain to them that the king and queen are dead, and it just didn't go right at all. And they're just like, never mind. Let's just play along with it, right? Ricker goes on to say that all the tactics that is used by the nation is suddenly overcome with ease, as a legendary strategist is now a construct for the enemy. Yeah, which that's a great story idea for the PCs. The PCs could acquire the information from the constructs themselves to sneak into a city. Maybe they have plans, city plans. They know how to go through the sewer systems. They know their defenses. They know how they patrol, their weaknesses. That might be kind of a cool thing too. And it doesn't necessarily need to be high tech hacking. It could be low tech interrogate the soul stone kind of thing, where pry the soul stone out of the forehead of the golem, and we can just take the soul stone itself and tell them we can free their soul if they give us certain types of information or something. Pelor says a ball which pours wine for guests. Constructs could certainly be a status symbol. Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you want to go Star Wars, R2D2 and C3PO are constructs whose purpose was definitely social, right? C3PO was is a like a diplomat, a social construct to speak for people, which would make perfect sense if you have a world. Oh, the Heraldrix is about to leave. All right, baby. Love you. We've come to the end of our time, and the Heraldrix has departed and has told us that we have come upon the last of our hour. But I'll read these last comments. I do like the idea of a ball that pours. This might stop the idea of killing the messenger. if golems are used to go from city to city to send messages from one place to another, maybe it is so horrible to walk from one place to another. It could be very dangerous. The environment might be extremely hazardous. So to get one message from one place to another, they go there and then they're able to record messages, or they act as dignitaries or envoys, which would make perfect sense for in our, one person's like, why don't we just outfit them with weapons? But actually they might be more appropriate in a diplomatic sense. Rickard says you could have a smart home with all furniture and such be constructed that can move about to match their owner's needs. Hell yeah. I was going to bring this up later in the week, but the smart home idea, a whole house or castle or something technically is a construct. So doors could open and close, gates could lock. You could make it more intricate where walls move, furniture moves around. Yes, absolutely. Deadman says the inevitables from Mechanius is the name of the. Yes. Very much. You could have machines that are designed to, in your world, they might try to put reality back where it's supposed to be. It is Mechanicus. It's Mechanicus. Yeah, you could have machines trying to put reality back where it's supposed to be. That portable hole or a bag of holding, they're like, we're going to have to confiscate that because that's actually a rift in, between realities. Yeah, you're going to have to dump all your stuff out of it. We're going to need to take that back. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining me. We're definitely going to go through much more of this later on in the week. Discord Tuesdays tomorrow, we're going to talk more of the gaming elements of it, in terms of the fragility versus the immunities that constructs have in games and how game systems replicate that. Castle Heterodyne from Girl Genius is a sentient castle. Hey, Pelor, take care. Thank you for Jenny. Long time no hear from you. I thank you for giving me a wave. Everyone, thank you very much. But we must come to an end. I appreciate it, guys. Everyone, have a great one. Bye.